Thank you for joining me on Ravenwing Academy this afternoon. What we're going to be talking about today is something that a viewer actually asked me. I believe it was in the comment section on one of the videos. And by the way, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you would like to learn more about spiritual ceremony and ritual in detail, specifically like certain steps or how to even outline and draw or craft your own ritual or ceremony for specific purposes, be sure to join my Patreon because I'll be uploading a lot of that material here soon. Um, but today, specifically, what they had to ask me was how do the rituals and everything work, and like what are the purposes that a person might use a ritual for, like what as it pertains to the different cultures and whatnot throughout antiquity and around the world, right? So the metaphysical mechanisms of ceremony and ritual, okay, are multiple. They're numerous, right? These are just a few of them, right? Some of the most common ones are some of the most easily accessible, right? That means understood. So it focuses your mental and your spiritual attention and energy on a singular outcome. Okay, this is to say, like if you want a situation to persist, like I guess you could say you'd want to keep a place clean, or you want a place to always feel, good and positive, constantly being in a ritual of doing things that make that place clean every day. That's what makes it a ritual, right? So you would take those same specific steps every day in order to maintain the situation of a clean space, right? And you could do this same thing with anything. It's all about making a mental correlation to the focusing on the thing that you're trying to achieve, the goal you're trying to achieve, right? The situation or the desired state you're trying to actually bring into being, because that has to happen through you, right? So you manifest that by being that aspect of that you can control, right? Which is your behavior, your patterns, right? It releases pent up emotional energies. One of the mechanisms of the metaphysical mechanisms of ceremony and ritual is, like, sometimes there are, I won't name any specific rituals, but they are, how do I put it without like, okay, they, like, say there was a certain emotion that would be viewed as negative. You know what I mean? They would like, I know a lot of the ancient priestesses used to practice this. People call them witches or whatnot, but that feels judgy to me. So I just call them priestesses, right? They would go into the woods or go into the deserts or go, out next to the sea, right? And they would either scream or cry or whatever it is the emotion is they felt that they were holding on to, and they would let that out into the fire or the water or the air or into the earth and bury it, right? And that's essentially giving that giving that emotion to back to its elemental component, right? So anger would be like fire. If you were angry over something, you couldn't let it go and you just felt rage, like, or if you felt like you were stagnant, that would be something you would want to bury. If you felt like you were sad or too desperative, or you felt something that made you feel that way, like you experienced something that made you feel that way, you would kind of give that sorrow to the waters, right, to the depths, right? That's essentially what it is. Like, you're supposed to be correlating the non-physical aspects to a physical aspect, right? And then you act that out in a ritual or a ceremony, okay? Or and another thing they do there, another purpose, right, mechanism, if you will, is to take on the mindset or spirit of a certain deific correlation or ancestral spirits, like I was just talking about, right? So it's not necessarily always something that you experience as an emotion that you need to get rid of. Sometimes you're trying to find something, figure something out, or you're just in general trying to sharpen the focus of your subconscious, and you're trying to actually make that conscious so you can actually be aware of what it is, right? And that's what people are doing when they're consulting their ancestors, right? Those are just older aspects of the same thing you're an aspect of. This your bloodline, the same spiritual energy that comes through you came through your family and their members and their members and their members all the way back, right? So it's you kind of asking that pre-existing genetic and spiritual memory of you to help you with this answer, right? Or help you see more clearly or whatever it is. And that would be your ancestral spirits, okay? And I mean, if you know them, if you knew them in life, you can probably figure out a way to correlate a specific, say, great grandparent or grandparent or great aunt or great uncle or whatever to an element. And that would actually help you maintain a connection or even establish a connection with that specific, I guess you would say, spirit of them. You're trying to, essentially, you're trying to pull in their experience, right? What they may have experienced, and you're trying to see that and learn what could be in that, what messages is in that, what did they learn from that. You're essentially trying to glean what they gleaned by seeing what they saw and doing what they did. All right, that's part of the ceremony. Like one of the ones that people don't really talk about that is openly acknowledged as a ceremony, even by the people who put it on, is the Olympics. Right? They act like only the opening part is a ceremony, but the entire thing is a ceremony. Back in ancient times, the whole point of the Olympics, first off, the whole thing about everybody being mad about, oh, they're making fun of Christianity. No, they're not. When that ceremony that they're doing, that they did at the beginning of the Olympics, first got incarnated into what is now called the Olympics, Christianity wasn't even a thing yet. Okay? That is a Dionysian dinner. Okay? And that's the first mention of a god that the ceremony is dedicated to, right? Dionysus. Then you have the archery, which that's obviously Artemis. You have the javelin, which you could arguably say is either Zeus or Mars because it's, Roman. But like as far as Mars go, you have the martial arts and the boxing and the wrestling, right? See, there's that. You have or not the javelin, but the shot put and discus. I know there's a specific deity associated with the discus. I don't remember which one, but the shot put would obviously be Atlas or his son. The discus might actually be Apollo, because you throw the disc into the sky, into the sun. I used to do both of those, shot put and discus. But these games are ceremonies that are done in honor of the specific aspect that they're attributing to, right? So the throwing of the javelin is distance and like a kind of accuracy, but they have darts for that. It's just basically the same thing, but for accuracy, right? You have the basketball and the football, right? These are, again, just things throwing balls into the sky. They're testing distance, strength, endurance, right? A lot of that stuff is the physical, it's the masculine aspect. It's the wrestlers, right? That's what all of this stuff is always celebrating / deifying. It's not the human personification of the image that you're worshiping. They're worshiping or they're paying tribute to. The ceremony is to acknowledge all of these different aspects that make a person, make a man, a woman, what have you, whatever you express yourself as. It's about all of these different aspects. Because again, the gods are deified or anthropomorphized versions of these the intangible, non-physical aspects, right? So that ceremony, the entire Olympics, is the same thing that it's always been. All right, it's just a televised ceremony. And yet you can call it magic if you want, but I feel like every time somebody uses that word, they're referring to like magic tricks or sleight of hand and that kind of stuff, and that's not what I'm talking about, right? So, let me see what else about it. They're like that's basically the whole thing, and the whole running of the torch, and even running the track. You know what I mean? The track and field, the running part of track and field, like that's Mercury, right? That's the messenger running on the wings of Mercury to deliver the message from one town to the next, right? That's what the story that's based off of, that part of it, right? And the lighting of the torch, that's the divine fire, right? So it's not that ceremony isn't already used and that people don't understand what it is. It's that most people do ceremony and ritual and just have no idea that they already do it, right? Another reason that it might be used is to unify two or more spiritual essences, and this would be specifically referring to stuff like civil unions, common law unions, marriages. I don't know, in some states people can't get married, same-sex marriage, and that's fucked up, but like it's that too. You know what I'm saying? It's the union of two souls, two spirits, two awarenesses, consciousness, however you want to put it, that are trying to unify their essence beyond a physical level. That's what the whole ceremony is for, right? In a second, I'll draw that. I'll draw up like the shape of how a wedding is laid out, like so you can actually see what I'm talking about. I think I did this once in a video a long time ago, but then there's to create or maintain a tulpa or an agregore. And what an agregore is kind of the same thing as a tulpa. A tulpa would be something that was brought into existence, physical existence, purely by thought. Okay? And an agregore is kind of the same thing. The main difference being a tulpa is something that is like physical form purely from thought. Say like if I sat and I say I got 23 other people with me and we just sat and concentrated on specific attributes that we wanted a being to have. And we focused on that and focused on that and focused on that. Say we did whatever the ritual is, that we were utilizing to make this happen, and just focus all of our energy on that, right? Concentrating, circle, concentrating, right? We sitting in a circle concentrating on that one thought. And that thing becomes birthed, right? It's not out of nothing, but like there's spiritual essence, there is thought, and there is emotion, right? That has kind of congealed together, right? It's coagulated together in order to form this being purely out of will, circumstance, and spiritual pushing, if you will. Like they're basically injecting into everybody's using like their spiritual essence, their focus to make this thing be born. It doesn't like poof into existence. There has to be some sort of physical medium for this to like actually coagulate into a being, right? And this is, have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist? This is essentially what that spell is relating to when it's talking about, you shouldn't mess around with human transmutation or human alchemy. Like that's what this is talking. This specific spell. That's why I'm not telling you what the spell is specifically, and I probably never will. But like this is the one specific spell that they're actually referring to, and this is because it's way more complicated than it seems at first. Like they had a tendency to just start with the four elements, and thinking that as long as they pushed in mind and spirit, that those four elements could actually coagulate together and create everything else necessary for it to be a person, right? But the few times that a person has attempted this, half the people who tried it went mad, right? It's not something that should ever actually be attempted, because like I was saying, it doesn't just come out of thin air. So it's using your spirit, whoever's there. If it's, like I said, it's me and 23 other people, 24 people, is using everybody's spirit, some fraction of your spiritual essence, to create this being. And that's why usually in modern practices, again, I'm not going to say who does what, but in modern practices, when this is attempted, there's usually hundreds of people, because it lessens the effect on any one person. Right, hundreds of people focus on these same thoughts, but the caveat is it gets more and more complicated to ensure that 100 people versus 24 people are focused on the same thing, right? That's the caveat. But if you can do it, it can be done. And the thing is, like you'll essentially have created this being, and it will know some aspect of people. It might not consciously figure or like recognize you, whatnot, but like it would be. What, I don't know if you made it a dog, a cat, a person, whatever. That's what a tulpa is, right? And agregore is the same thing, but the agregore is embodied through the subjects that imagine it, or that give it life, right? That give the attributes of this thing life. Like any denomination of any religion, like, right, the way that it's painted, or the way that the figures are drawn, the way that they're carved in statues, all of that, those are representative of essentially an agregore, right? And then the people who of that religion act out or behave in a way that they think is befitting of a good person, a moral person, or just according to the tenements of that religion or dogma, okay? And in that way, they're being the body of that agregore, right? That chosen deity. Okay, so followers of a said religion would effectively be acting as the body for that spirit that's venerated within that religion, or spirits, because it's not necessarily just one, but that's what that is. In alchemy, they would say that's a spirit created by people. Okay, It's not necessarily something that existed prior to people. It's not primordial. It's something that was resulted and was birthed as a result of people seeing something primordial from this angle down here, the lower angle. So you're seeing that, and all these people in this area see that as A, and all the people in this area see that as B. And all the people over here see it as like A1. So it's like it's the thing that you're imagining that you are serving or what have you in your religion. And the more people that believe this or give this thing attentive energy, that is their attention and their focus, the more real it becomes through their bodies, right? Through their actions, through their words and deeds, right? Another reason you would use it is to align one's movements with aspects. Movements are your vibrations, your behavioral patterns, right? So that includes your words, your thoughts, and your movements, right? Your actions. So to align one's movements with an aspect or aspects of the nectar and or the cosmos, like I was just talking about, right? So the cosmos doesn't necessarily mean like clouds or nearby planets. You can see it. It means like the actual motions and the laws of motion, the laws of physics that actually govern the way these things interact and move within the cosmic system, right? So you analogize that motion to the different parts of your spiritual anatomy, physical anatomy, mental anatomy that correspond with those things. Like how Venus corresponds to, the alchemical symbol, the Ankh, right? And the male used to be a symbol similar, it was the Ankh, right? But with the horns, right? That's what the male symbol used to be. Now it's the male symbol with the arrow, right? But that's like the writing, right? Script that represents the non-physical aspect. It doesn't represent the man body, it represents the male essence, right? The male spirit, if you will. Okay? So you're using, when you're writing a spell, saying you use alchemical script as opposed to writing out things in like English, right? Or, you know what I'm saying? Script. You're using those symbols to tie that writing, to tie that script to the celestial bodies, right? And then you perform a ritual. This is to say, you make what is essentially a play that acts out some part or some aspect of the movement or the meaning of the movement within the ceremony, right? The written part is the ritual. The part you actually act out is a ceremony. Usually speaking, like rituals are something you would do more often. Rituals are usually repeated, whereas ceremonies are done, say, like anywhere from once a month to, once every few years, like anywhere in between there. That's largely the difference. The ceremonies usually involve more people. They're usually more focused. They're usually more focused, something that's more baseline, something that is the foundations of something, right? Whereas ritual is more for a daily foundation. So it would be something you would do every day, every week, or whatnot. And in ancient times, they would do rituals every hour. Okay. So in doing that, you would essentially like how you wake up every morning with the sunrise, right? You're literally doing a ritual by getting up and doing whatever it is you do every morning when the sun comes up, and that's tying your awakening, you're opening your eyes to the sun rising, right? That's one of the reasons that the sun usually has the 5-point star or the eye associated with it, right? Because that's what it's saying. This is the morning star, just like your eyes are the one. Even if you think about it and you're laying down, right? If I'm laying down and my cheeks are the hills and I sit up and my eyes open, right? The sun just came up above the horizon. You see what I mean? Like if you consider your head to be the sphere, right? And your eyes, your eyesight, your focus is essentially representing the sun, right? The sun rising. Those eyes are opening up, right? So that's one of that's actually one of the most common utilizations for ceremony or ritual, is to do exactly that. It's one of the more ancient uses for it, is to tie yourself and tie your movements, your being, and your understanding, your consciousness, your focus, your behaviors, your habits, right? Tying those to the movements of the things you observe in the sky, times of the year, animal movements, stuff like that. Another one is to align one's movements with a desired outcome through symbolic transgression. That is kind of the same as the first one, okay? To bring it all back around. The difference being this focuses on a, say, singular outcome, whereas this is more to establish a different pattern, right? So if you're in a mode of being, like you wake up and do X, Y, Z, and you figure out that this mode of being, this vibration, this frequency of vibration, right, is actually detrimental. It's not helping you, right? What you would want to do is try to establish a new vibration, right? So you would realize what your routine is or your ritual is every morning. Go through that and see what in that you're subconsciously doing is setting you up to be this version of yourself you don't approve of all day, right? And then you will go back and you inventorize that. You know what I'm saying? You take, you categorize that out. You take inventory of what it is that you're doing in that ritualistic behavior every morning, right? And you change that. Consciously change what you do every morning, right? So say if the sun comes up and the first thing you do is get up, start watching TV, and you realize, holy shit, I'm being super unproductive all day because I start my day by being lazy and watch TV. What you want to do is get up and resist the urge to do that. Read a book, maybe get up, stretch, exercise. I'm a big fan of those. That's why they came off first. But like you stretch, exercise, read a book. You know what I mean? You can cook yourself something to eat, or if that's what you do. I don't usually eat first thing when I get up. I usually wait a couple hours. You have you some coffee, drink some water, go outside, get some air, let the sun hit you in the face. I do that too, so there's a lot of different things that you can do to change your ritual from something that is not productive to something that is productive, negative to positive, as it were, right? And that's one of the things that this is the best for, right? Using spiritual ceremonies and rituals. Because if you look at it, like the whole point of the Olympics was essentially to show who's the greatest, right? To rile up enthusiasm and patriotism, and kind of this togetherness for all the countries. I mean, if you even look at the symbol for it, the 5 rings, that's the 5 rings that go around each point of the 5-point star, each tet of the 5-point star, each tet of the pentagram, right? So even that in and of itself is acknowledging that that's what that's supposed to do. It's supposed to uplift the hearts, minds, bodies, souls, and focus basically of everybody. It's supposed to give you something to found your enthusiasm in, right? But because nobody can actually just maintain any kind of level of scruples out this month, they keep coming up with all the scandals in the world, you know what I mean? But that's essentially what that was supposed to be, because everything is indeed a ritual, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of times things that you don't understand are ceremonies, like the fact that there's a holiday in every season. Again, no such thing as coincidence. But the thing you got to understand is that the ancient holidays had much more pow spiritually to them than, say, the made-up governmental holidays that people use now. Even the Christian holidays, they're largely all commercial, right? So they're not actually focusing your spiritual essence, energy, your mental awareness, right? Your focus is not on something that would actually help you grow. It's on actually acquiring more nonsense, right? And signing off on the nonsense through what's called agreements by acceptance, right? So just in the fact that you keep doing a thing, like you keep participating in Black Friday, you keep buying all kinds of nonsense for Christmas, right? Just the fact that you keep doing that gives them the right to keep selling it to you because you're agreeing through acceptance. See what I mean? So you don't always have to sign something with ink and paper. Sometimes you can sign it with your agreements, with your acknowledgement of it, right? And constant acceptance of that because you're accepting it. So one of the things that you also want to keep in mind is that if you're, depending on what you're trying to do a ceremony for, because again, this is just some of the things, you want to be able to repeat it, right? So you want it to be as simple as possible. Let me see, some of the ones that I use that are also used other places that you've seen before is like something like, doormats with like different things on them. That is sort of a ritual, right? You're placing whatever this picture is at your entrance, because what you're trying to do is get this to be the spirit that people bring into your house. You see what I mean? So like what I have outside my door is I just got a brick, right? Cinder block, right? And I have on it pentacle like that, and I have a whole bunch of writing in an angel dialect written all over the brick, and it just sits by the door, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, right? And there was a ceremony involved in it, you know what I mean, activating it and whatnot. But one of the most common that people don't often understand or realize that they're going through is the wedding, right? So you would have the wedding arch here, right? It's usually like flowers or balloons, right? Both of those things indicating air or scent, right? Then there would usually be an altar right there. Then there's this guy, the priest, who acts as the head of God, right? Then you have man, then you have woman, right? Then you have this long walkway, right? That she walks up. But first, what happens before she walks up there, right? You have the ring bearer, the young boy, and the flower girl, right? He has the ring, that golden ring. It's a symbol of divine authority, eternity, right? She has the flowers. She's laying the flowers down, all right? That's a symbol of her divine femininity, right? So she comes up here, goes that way. He comes up here, gives him the ring, then goes that way, all right? And over here, what's happening? You usually have 6 to 12 bridesmaids, right? And groomsmen, right? But each one of these has one that's a best, all right? So let's take you through what's already here, right? These are essentially the masculine aspect, right? If you look at it, this guy being the least important, same thing over here. As you get closer to the middle, you get closer to what's inside the arch, right? What's inside the reality space, if you will, the focus of all these different energies, right? That's why he is the guy. He's the next best thing to the guy, and she's the next best thing to the woman, right? Because she has, in this equation, in this ritual, she holds the second least or second most amount of energy. So it's him. So it's he. Okay. And these are 12 or 6. So it would still equal 12 either way. You know what I'm saying? It'd be 20. It's either 6 and 6 to make 12, or it's 12 and 12 to make 6. So it would be 24. Okay. And back here, you would usually have choirs, right? People in the choir who act as the angels or the voice of God, right? This guy acts as the figurehead of God, the mouthpiece. They are the choir of God, right? And these people right here, man's side, woman's side, okay? Bride side, right? So again, this is a pool of the ancestral masculine, right, energy. This is his spiritual, what he's bringing, his ancestral spiritual. That's her ancestral spiritual, right? And at the joining, whoop, whoop, with that ring, right, the two become one, right? That's the joining of two solar essences, boop, boop, into one thing. And that's why a lot of times they call it tying the knot, because they actually used to do that. You would tie your hands together, or you jumping the broom, right? That's symbolic of going through the threshold into domestication, right? You're going to cohabitate and keep it clean, essentially, right? Like a lot of these things have very, very, the ceremonies have very obvious implications if you just think about it beyond what you're physically seeing, right? And even this, right? Lights back here would cast a shadow right there like that. You see what I'm saying? Like this whole entire thing is shaped like exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a unification of the masculine principle and the feminine principles. Right? See? So that's just, again, that's most common because it's called, matrimony. That's what the ceremony is called. Matrimony. Right? Matrimony. So there are other ones. Even getting engaged is a ritual because it doesn't necessarily involve the same amount of detail that, say, a full-fledged ceremony is. Another example of a very common ceremony would be um, the quinceañeras, or uh, what's the other one? The bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs. Um, no, Walpurgisnacht, different kinds of festivals and things. Those are also ceremonies because they're supposed to be celebrating or kind of bringing attention, focus, awareness, bringing life, as it were, to certain aspects or certain things, right? Certain natural things, usually, is what they were. But now, like I said before, we have these kind of manufactured dead holidays that are really no deeper than give us money, right? And that's largely the intent. But the intent used to be the other way around, and that's kind of changing back. We can actually kind of see that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and that was, the metaphysical mechanisms of ceremony and ritual. And like I said, if you join the Patreon, which on the white feather level, I believe it's now just $1.99. I'm gonna start. I'm going to start a series of different rituals. I'll probably do like one or two a month where you'll actually be able to follow along, and I'll go through them step by step. That can help you do a variety of different things. Don't worry, it's not going to be anything dark on there. I would never do that to you. But that's, again, check out my Patreon, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching this afternoon, and I hope you have an awesome day.